Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the launch event of the Lebanon Environmental, Social, and Governance Stewardship Program. My name is Danny Malouli. I'm the Head of Investment at USAID Trade and Investment Facilitation Project, or TIF project as we like to call it. We're happy to have you all with us here today to launch the Lebanon ESG Stewardship Program, which will support more than 100 Lebanese enterprises to become ESG compliant. I would like to start by extending warm welcomes to His Excellency Mr. Amin Salam, the Lebanese Minister of Economy and Trade, His Excellency Dr. Nasser Yassin, the Lebanese Minister of Environment, Mrs. Mary Eileen Devitt, USAID Lebanon's Mission Director, Mr. Douglas Balco, Director of the Economic Growth Office at USAID Lebanon, Ms. Rana Hello, USAID Contracting Officer Representative, Mr. Saad Sabra, IFC Country Head for Lebanon, Mr. Khalid Dingizli, EBRD Country Head for Lebanon, UN representatives, DFI's representatives, local and foreign financial institutions, heads of business and economic associations, heads of syndicates, investment funds, and representatives of leading enterprises Lebanon private sector. Welcome to all. Before we begin, we would like to invite you to stand for both the Lebanese and the American national anthem. The Chief of Party of the TIF project, Mr. Mark Rostel, couldn't be here with us today, so I'd like to invite TIF Deputy Chief of Party, Dr. Nadine Shmele, to present a welcome note on his behalf.
Thank you, Danny. Good afternoon. On behalf of TIF Chief of Party and the TIF project, we're happy to welcome you today at the launch event of the Lebanon ESG Stewardship Program. As the country continues to face challenges slowing down the growth of the private sector, USAID's TIF project was designed to support the recovery of Lebanese economy. For over a year now, we have been pioneering innovative approaches to economic growth in Lebanon. TIF is a multi-year project that could go up to $70 million. The project focuses on increasing the export of Lebanese goods and services, facilitating investment and access to finance, and improving the business and investment enabling environment. Through our intervention, we're aiming to sustain business operation in the country's top productive sectors, generate foreign currency, create new job opportunities for the Lebanese people, all while ensuring an increase in the participation of women and youth in the workforce. Today, we are launching the Lebanon ESG Stewardship Program with our partner, Capital Concept, represented here by the founder, Mr. Yassin Akkawi. This partnership is strategically important to the Lebanese economy as ESG is becoming a global standard for investment and funding. The program's ESG methodology will encourage enterprises to become socially responsible and run sustainable businesses, making them a safe investment destination. It will prepare more than 100 local enterprises and guide them through becoming ESG certified. Thank you all for being here today, and we look forward to this partnership. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Nadine. Now it's a great honor to have with us the USAID Lebanon Mission Director, Ms. Eileen Devitt. Ms. Devitt is a career member of the Senior Foreign Service with the rank of Counselor. She has more than 20 years of experience at USAID, including 15 years in the Middle East. Ms. Devitt has served as a financial management development expert at the agency and provided executive expertise in the public financial management, leadership in donor and host country government, as well as private sector engagement and collaboration. Ms. Devitt has received several superior and meritorious honors awards during her USAID career. I invite you, Director Devitt, to present your opening statement.
What a wonderful, beautiful venue we have this afternoon. And I can tell you, for those of you sitting in the sun, there's a big difference in the temperature up here in the front. However, it's still a beautiful venue that we're very lucky to be able to launch this here today at the Sursock Museum. So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, Minister of Economy and Trade, Amin Salam, and Minister of Environment, Nasser Yassin. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to join you to launch the Lebanon Environmental, Social, and Governance Stewardship Program, implemented under USAID's Trade and Investment Facilitation activity, many of you know as TIF. This program is the first of its kind in the region and will play a major role in the growth of Lebanese businesses. Since 2014, USAID has facilitated investments in Lebanese businesses because of their ability to enhance Lebanon's economic prosperity. In other programs, including the Middle East and North Africa Investment Initiative and the Lebanese Investment Initiative, we have witnessed tangible results that benefit the Lebanese people. Promising startups advanced rapidly into full-scale businesses within a few short years. We are also seeking non-banking entities, including angel investors. We are also seeing non-bank entities. My papers are flying around here. We are also seeing non-bank entities, including angel investors, venture capitalists, private equity and debt funds, social impact funds, high net worth individuals, and development finance institutions searching for ways to invest in Lebanese enterprises. These new businesses are creating jobs, providing opportunities, and generating income for Lebanese across the country. Many of the businesses that are seeking investment and support are family-owned. These small businesses traditionally relied on access to loans from the banking sector. But in today's environment, because of the economic climate, investors, be it banks or private entities, are looking for more assurances. This is where Capital Concepts, environmental, social, and governance assessment and strengthening initiatives step in to help. Through the ESG Stewardship Program, Capital Concept will work with 100 Lebanese companies to assess and improve their implementation of ESG standards. These standards are becoming a focus of governments, regulators, and investors across the globe. By helping Lebanese businesses adopt and adhere to ESG standards, USAID is better positioning local businesses to attract funding and investment. Focusing on environmental standards, good governance, and social impact also aligns directly with the priorities of President Biden's administration, which has delivered on its campaign promise to take an aggressive stance on climate change, promoting diversity and equity, and challenging corrupt practices. We are already investing in ESG standards in the United States through new commissions and oversight programs. And I'm pleased to see that USAID support initiatives such as the Stewardship Program here in Lebanon. I want to offer particular thanks to Ministers Salam and Yassin for being here with us today. Their presence underscores their commitment to putting Lebanon back on the right path to attract investment. Your support is instrumental to improving business practices and modeling global ESG standards. Thank you again for being here. I wish Capital Concept all the best in implementing this initiative because it will pave the way for rewarding long-term ventures. To the selected companies, I look forward to learning about your new operating practices that accommodate ESG standards and, more importantly, how they've helped to attract investments. Our next steps will build on this solid foundation of accomplishment, relying on the expertise of you and your partners, and capitalizing on the strengths and vision of Lebanese businesses. The desire for a change is real. For 60 years, USAID has been committed to helping the people of Lebanon, and today we continue to reach out to a growing number of Lebanese businesses so they can prosper. We look forward to the future with optimism that we can all work together to advance Lebanon's economic stability and broad-based prosperity. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Devitt. Now we would like to introduce His Excellency, Mr. Amin Salam, the Lebanese Minister of Economy and Trade. Mr. Salam is an award-winning executive with over 20 years of international business development and legal experience. He is also an international advisor in economic and social development, advocacy, public policy, and government relations. Previously, Minister Salam was the Vice President of the National U.S. Arab Chamber of Commerce and served as the primary link between the U.S. and the MENA region and advised on trade, investment, security, and foreign affairs. Your Excellency, we hand it over to you.
Thank you all for having me joining you today on this very meaningful and important and impactful event. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be here with you today for the launching of the Lebanon Environmental, Social, and Governance Stewardship Program. This project falls under the Trade and Investment Facilitation Project funded by USAID, whose assistance to the Lebanese people is greatly appreciated. TIF has been instrumental in helping the private sector survive the challenges of the crises the country is facing and has spared no effort in helping with trade facilitation. I personally believe that future economic growth should be grounded in a small, open economy model and driven by low tariffs, a flexible exchange rate regime, and a dynamic export sector built on competitive and comparative advantages. It is well known that currency devaluation renders exports cheaper and more competitive to foreign buyers. This, however, should be coupled with a targeted and well-designed national export policy that incentivizes the investment in export industries focused on high-value products. More importantly, fast-tracking Lebanon's efforts for occasion to the World Trade Organization, WTO, should be placed as the top priority of the policy agenda, as this will yield many benefits to Lebanon. A window of opportunity has opened in the midst of the current crisis and the ensuing devaluation of the Lebanese pound. Thus, it is critical to support and boost industries with high export potential. Yet this can and should be done while integrating environmental, social, and governance factors into investment decisions. This program comes at a very opportune moment to bridge the existing ESG knowledge gap in the domestic market that would enable investors to facilitate positive, sustainable economic growth while generating returns. As you all know, the Ministry of Economy and Trade is committed to support the relaunch of Lebanon's economy, but we are also aware that the road to economic recovery is long. We welcome all efforts, such as USAID's, that work towards providing Lebanese corporates and SMEs with an eligible and enabling investment environment during these challenging times. In addition, I would like to add a few things that were not part of the written speech and emphasize more really the role and the importance of a program like this to Lebanon. As we are witnessing many, many different challenges, particularly on the economy side, and we know how important to kickstart the economy is the investment environment, I think programs of this caliber are essential for Lebanon because those are the programs that build institutional frameworks. What we lack in Lebanon today is real institutional frameworks, mostly within the government framework. The reason today we are pushing for an IMF agreement is because it gives us this structural framework that we have not experienced or exercised, unfortunately, for the past 3 decades. I think regardless the size of the program or what sector it targets, as we go along in our reaccession efforts with the WTO, as I mentioned earlier, in addition to the work being done with the IMF, which was successfully or partially accomplished through the staff level agreement that we concluded earlier this week, I think all those steps, baby or big steps, are very important for the road ahead for Lebanon. Unless we build such institutional and get supported by such institutional programs, we will never really get to where we want when we talk about recovery, when we talk about GDP, when we talk about growth, when we talk about, most importantly, confidence in the Lebanese market, particularly banking sector and economic sector in general. With that, I conclude, and I thank TIF, I thank USAID and all the contributors to this effort, and we look forward to working with you for accomplishing similar programs to help bring Lebanon and kickstart the economy back to where it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your valuable contribution. We are pleased to have with us today His Excellency Dr. Nasser Yassin, the Lebanese Minister of Environment. Prior to his appointment, Minister Yassin was a professor of policy and planning at the American University of Beirut. He founded and directed the Lebanon Crisis Observatory. Minister Yassin was also the Director of Research of the Issam Fares Institute for Public Policy and International Affairs and served as the Institute Interim Director. Minister Yassin is the author of more than 50 articles and books on development planning and policy making. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hala, I didn't get any award yet, but soon. Ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, it's a great pleasure to be with you today to launch the Lebanon Environment, Social and Governance Stewardship Program. This is really a timely and much needed initiative touching on key elements that various sectors in Lebanon are of real need. When we talk about environment, social, governance standards, this is touching on actually the essence of a lot of our problems. In particular, to enhance the practices of the corporate world, and I would say the public sector as well as the non-for-profit sector. I think we all need the corporate, the public, the non-for-profit to instill those standards and practices of good governance, environmental compliance, and social responsibility. And this is really a very timely initiative, so congratulations for launching this. But for us, at the Ministry of Environment, environmental governance is really strategic. As a matter of fact, it is the foundation of all the work that we should do. And it's a main pillar in tackling all the environmental challenges and issues in the country. and we see the high cost of the environmental degradation that the country has been going through, estimated yearly as 4.4% of the GDP, around 2.4% of the, around $2.4 billion in 2019. This is roughly what we're going to get from the IMF. This is the cost, this is the high cost of environmental degradation that the country has been facing for the past few years. And this is actually the result or consequence or the repercussions of weak institutions, as my colleague Mr. Salam mentioned, that govern our environment and environmental protection. Although I would say good progress has been made in the past few years, there's a long, long way for us to achieve those high levels of good governance at the environmental level. From solid waste management that's marred with corruption, to water pollution that's actually so badly managed, our water institutes and our wastewater establishments, to illegal quarrying, to forest fires, and everything in between. The challenges of good governance in the environment sector are vivid, and we're not shying away from addressing them one by one. And I don't want to go into the details, but this is really most of the challenges that I've been facing for the past 5 months in office are related to weak institutions and bad governance. Whatever we try to do and tackle in all the environmental related issues and challenges are actually governance problems. We have all the technical know-how. We have good laws and legal frameworks. We have good people around in the ministry and outside. But actually we're lacking the way to implement those, and this has to do with the weak governance and the weak institutions. And I can tell stories about the challenges we've been facing in environmental problems and environmental corruption. But I would like to say a few words that link this timely program and this timely initiative to our vision in economic recovery. We're working as the Ministry of Environment to really instill and put the foundations for the paradigms of sustainability in the recovery plan, aiming to make it more sustainable, aiming to make it more green or greener. And it's really vital that if we want to build our country better, as the motto would say, we want to build it on sustainable, inclusive, and open grounds and open foundation. And those are key. These are not just to lecture them and borrow them from the literature. I think if we want to build better, we need really to have the country built on those more sustainable, open, inclusive, and other foundations that build the country, in a way that we really dream of. And this is key, and this is key to the sectors that have siphoned away our resources. And I would name energy, transport, food, importing food, and others. And we really want, when we talk about about the inclusive and sustainable and green and open recovery and build on those foundations, we want to rebuild it on those grounds. And I'm going to name a few examples that I know USAID has been also keen and others on. Renewable energy. We're missing a lot. We missed a lot by not focusing on renewable energy. We want to build sustainable public transport, sustainable agriculture, and I know Amin has been struggling to provide food and bread to the households in Lebanon because we haven't built the sustainable agriculture as we should be. Responsible tourism, and so on and so forth. I think these are key and these are strategic for the forthcoming recovery. And any IMF program or any recovery plan has to include all of these. I don't want to keep going on that. I want to keep the positive element in this celebration today and wish the program and its team really great success and best of luck in their activities. And we really look forward to work closely with you, particularly on the environmental compliance. The Ministry of Environment has worked hard in the past few years to establish the environmental compliance system through AIAs and other screening, scoping, and so on. And I think this is really a part of the work of the SEG that we would like the corporate world to take in and really to instill in their practices. So we look forward to collaborating with this initiative, and best of luck. Thank you.
With no end in sight to Lebanon's ongoing financial crisis, ESG is critically important to help companies raise external investment, and that's why we partnered with Capital Concept's ESG program. We're hoping that our partnership will help draw in external investors who will not only invest, but who will permanently relocate here. And then after USAID's intervention in TIF ends, we'll have a sustainable and diverse financial services ecosystem.
Modern corporations worldwide have evolved in order to respect environmental, social, and governance principles and standards. And in Lebanon, it has to be no different. The desolate situation has put on us and every corporation the priority in order to rise and remain pertinent in a more globalized environment. The ESG program, in partnership with USAID, is there to put at the disposal of Lebanese corporates all what they need in order to expedite their adoption of these ESG principles and standards.
Sustainability to the success of any company is critical. It is also very critical to look at sustainability from an environmental, social, and governance aspect. From a risk management perspective, adopting environmental, social, and governance practices, it actually adds a very significant value when it comes to reputational risk, but also when it comes to cost reduction and revenue generation. So as the largest development financial institution focusing on the private sector, IFC has been a leading agency globally in adopting environmental, social, and governance practices and evolving space since over a quarter of a century.
Toders is a Beirut-based tech company. We employ over 500 people, 250 of which are in Lebanon. We constantly are on the lookout to grow and expand and have been doing that for a few years now. And during our latest funding round, we came to realize that ESG compliance is important to a lot of the venture capitals we spoke with. We heard about USAID's and Capital Concept's program to bring up more Lebanese companies up to ESG compliance and are very excited to hear that for Lebanon.
Thank you. And now we're delighted to have with us Mr. Romain Mathieu, the co-founder and managing partner of the Euromina funds, one of the leading private equity firms in the Middle East and Africa regions. Mr. Mathieu has more than 20 years of experience in corporate transactions and family-owned businesses regionally and internationally. On top of chairing several local and foreign companies, he is an active member of organizations supporting SME entrepreneurship programs and corporate governance initiatives across the region. Mr. Mathieu is also the board member of the International Chamber of Commerce in Lebanon. Mr. Mathieu, I invite you to take the floor.
Cold February 2014, walking from uptown to Soho, minus 10 degrees, 4 p.m., no taxis around. Yassin, looking to market his great idea of standardizing ESG standards for SMEs, and myself looking to raise few millions for Euromina. Both of us wandering in the streets of this giant city, full of passion of what we do and friendship. From an idea to a real project. So here we are today in this beautiful place, celebrating the launch of this stewardship program. Mabruk Yasser, Mabruk everyone. At Euromina, ESG is a pillar of our strategy. Assessing the ESG framework of every company we invest in and enhancing it during the lifetime of our investment is a key issue for us. And we devote a huge human resource and power for that. As a matter of fact, my co-partner heads this function at Euromina. Euromina has been the first organization to sign the IGI partnership agreement, the IGI declaration with Capital Concept, and throughout this initiative to undergo and make every portfolio company undergo the ESG audit and implementation with Capital Concept 10 years ago. So we do lead by example. This has contributed for us to raise around $400 million for the region in general, but a big part of it for Lebanon, and has contributed for some very good investments, actually. Today, we all know the situation of the country today, but we are not going to stand hands crossed, waiting for miracles that will not happen. We need to initiate these miracles altogether. We know that for a year or two at best, and most probably much longer in more realistic scenarios, there will be no funding available for SMEs except from foreign direct investments. And even afterwards, when the banking sector gets restructured and starts resuming playing its role, lending money to SMEs will only take place based on solid KPIs related to international standards. These fundings will not come if a company is not stamped ESG compliant. So this is not luxury anymore. Over and above delivering sound financial returns, implementing ESG principles and applying them today in Lebanon is now an urgent necessity. And this is being made available today and affordable by Capital Concept under the patronage, help, push of the USAID. We more than ever need this initiative, especially in the absence of any efficient financial and legal framework currently in the country. Thus, the best guarantee for an investor today is a proper governance. When there is no framework, we put the framework, and we initiate alternative ways to do efficient business in line with best practices. Yasser and I, and many of you, are in our early mid-50s. Time is running, guys, and we don't have a decade to lose. No worries for you ladies, you remain eternal 20 always. It's now or never for us, and we need to create hope. We need to create hope in a hopeless situation, create impact, resilience, growth, employment, and positive contribution to the economy. The signature of the SLA last week with the IMF is the great thing, actually, a long-awaited trigger that should allow most of the DFIs present here in this event and in the country to restart considering, to reinvest, to re-support. You all supported us in normal days. This is how Euromina was born. And this is the time Lebanon needs you to reborn. With Yasser, we have already identified and contacted a long list of SMEs that are willing to undergo the ESG initiative and put themselves up to standard to be able to attract investors. So I'm launching now a positive challenge to you, DFIs present here and in the country. You want to help, and we're here to help. So let's start with a $30, $40, $50 million fund dedicated to such up-to-standard SMEs. The setup is ready. Between Capital Concept and Euromina, we have a fully fledged project ready for you. We select the proper companies, we implement proper ESG, and once stamped, we invest through this dedicated fund. By investing, we're creating impact, employment, and we are supporting the local economy. So let's not wait for better days. Let us make these days better. Thank you. Thank you, Yasser. Mabruk, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Mathieu. Last but not least, we would like to welcome TIF partner in the Lebanon ESG Stewardship Program and the founder of Capital Concept, Mr. Yasser Akkawi. Mr. Akkawi has been advising companies, investors, and regulators in the Middle East on corporate governance since 2005, and he has been instrumental in producing a number of ESG codes and methodologies. On top of being an ESG advocate, Mr. Akkawi is also the publisher of Executive Magazine and the founding member of the Lebanese Center for Policy Studies. Yasser, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Danny. Dear friends, excellencies, media, fellow media, thank you so much for being here. all the donations made by nations and charities in the world in 2018 amount to $309 billion. These monies went to alleviate poverty in some of the most distressed countries and communities, and are obviously not enough. Meanwhile, during the same year, more than $110 trillion were invested in assets around the world. Last year, close to $30 trillion were invested in global assets in the category of sustainable investing. This represents a quarter, if not more, of the total global assets managed in the world. The biggest issues of our planet require trillions, not billions. If you want to make sustainable impact on current world challenges, government action alone is not sufficient. We need to engage and involve the business world, corporates, and investors. This is not about corporate philanthropy anymore. It's about what's good for business. Globally, the COVID-19 pandemic was a rude awakening of the fragility of the world's economic and financial models. In Lebanon, our current crisis has exposed all the cracks and deficiencies in our previous monetary and economic policies. We have come to realize that infinite growth is not possible, and our system collapsed. We need to adopt a different, more inclusive approach, one that can maintain progress towards solutions to our problems and not just an incremental cost. We need a model that is scalable when the economy is booming and not sacrificed during bad economic conditions. Environment, social, and governance standards and principles are embedded in all of the business practices that can affect the environment and society. Strategically, when coupled with innovation, they can create core business benefits, improve the triple bottom line, attract investors, all while solving the problems in our world today. Practically, committing to ESG means integrating social and environmental practices and government processes. And surprise, it pays. ESG today is sought after by institutional investors worldwide. CEOs' annual addresses to shareholders increasingly confirm that they will include ESG scores in their funds and disinvest from those that do not demonstrate commitment. Understandable when assets under management and US-based ESG investing alone climbed above $15 trillion, representing half of all investments under professional management, an increase of 45% since 2016. Since 2005, Capital Concept has been adopting an iterative, collaborative, inclusive approach, working alongside regulators, civil society, academia, international organizations, and the FIs in an effort to trigger an inflection point on corporate behavior. Our purpose is to help companies adopt the ESG standards, to become resilient to shocks and ensure a prosperous future for them and their communities. We want to promote Lebanon as a safe and sustainable investment destination. We want companies to stop looking at shareholder returns from a single bottom line angle at a time when ESG, more than ever, is considered in investment decisions as seriously as shareholder returns. As the crisis hit, and despite the full destruction of our offices, we continued restlessly trying to stay at the forefront of this ESG movement. Again, it started in 2014 before anyone was talking about ESG. We did not want all of our contribution to research and our collaboration, notably with UN Lebanon, many are here with us today, IFC and DBRD, who are also with us today, to go waste. And then, during a meeting at TIF offices last spring, for a totally different matter, we found a spark in the eyes of a marvelous and intelligent team that immediately understood what our purpose is all about. My hands are cold, so it's difficult to split down. That is when the Lebanon ESG Stewardship Program was revitalized. USAID is setting the grounds for the establishment of programs such as the Lebanon ESG Stewardship Program, which will be a strong basis for the sustainability, growth, and pertinence of the Lebanese private sector. The partnership with USAID on the Lebanon ESG Stewardship Program is paramount at the time when the Lebanese economy is facing extremely challenging circumstances. The ESG Stewardship Program promises to assist 100 companies, free of charge, to embark on their ESG journeys and achieve certification by early 2023. A team of consultants will work with those corporates, putting at their disposal our methodologies and provide them with all the necessary advice and knowledge to expedite the process. In addition, the program will allow for the design, development, and deployment of an online platform that digitizes and automates our ESG methodologies. The platform has three main components: the Consult Tech section, the Investor Advice section, and the Knowledge Center section. In addition, the program will also include a strategic awareness creation communication campaign with the aim of signaling Lebanon's refusal to be alienated or isolated. The great news is some corporates have already taken that leap of faith. So let me tell you about Lebanese corporates. Companies that are most vigilant on ESG, thanks to their high adaptability to new international regulations and their constant pursuit of growth markets and financial lines of credit, notably from the FIs, have been fastest to subscribe to even the most rigorous governance principles and ESG standards. Thanks to ESG, corporates that perform best see a double-digit % valuation premium. Wait, there is more. When these practices are integrated in their supply chain, they enjoy additional percentage points premium on their gross margins. These numbers are important, especially during times of crisis. Lebanese companies are understandably suffering to deliver short-term earnings. However, luckily, investors are actually starting, and basically Roman just proved it, to think long-term and starting to include ESG-certified companies in their portfolios. All our research confirms that they expect to see improved revenues and improved operating efficiency for companies that are making this leap of faith. The hesitation of many corporates is comprehensible. Our work on prompting businesses to embark on governance 2 decades ago, when we started, convinced us that this challenge is the same. At the beginning, many business people will be hesitant to consider business benefits of ESG. Then they will start to think differently. This happens once they start to make considerable progress on their challenges. They will finally assume their role in driving the solutions. The job of business is to satisfy customer demand profitably. They need to survive. One of the best strategies for businesses to grow and preserve value is to step up to the challenges of our society. And when they achieve that innovatively, ethically, responsibly, ingeniously, they will also be contributing to nation building. This is the inclusiveness that we need. And this is the private sector we want for the Lebanon we deserve. I would like to thank USAID once again for this opportunity and for this commitment to pave the way for a prosperous and strong Lebanon. But I also want to give special thanks to the TIF team. Nadine, Suwan, Jinan, Suraya, Mark, Dani, Samir, Nisreen, Anissa, and Reem, who all basically saw it from the first second, and basically without them, I wouldn't be standing here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Yasser, and we look forward to a successful partnership with you. And now it's time to celebrate the launch of the Lebanon ESG Stewardship Program. So we'd like to invite you to stay with us during the networking reception. And thank you all for being present here today.